everybody. Welcome back to the Black Friday show. It's the Black Friday show. I mean, Black Saturday show because there's a lot going on. A lot of coaches getting fired, GMs getting fired, and whatnot. And yeah. So look, we'll get right to it. As we all know, Ravens lose to the Steelers in heartbreaking fashion on Sunday Night Football, and it was funny. I saw like the NFL memes IG account, and it was like in the middle, like if it was like if it went left or right, Tomlin got fired, but if it went through the middle, Harbaugh got fired, and that's what happened. We didn't. I think we were hoping that was going to be the case. Like, you know, if they make it, we know he's good. I don't know, for a week or two, whatever it may be, how long this goes. But we knew if he missed it, then this is going to be it. And then I think as the days went on, Monday came, and we saw, like, you know, all these coaches getting fired and OCs getting let go, and we were like, I don't know. I think as it kept going, we were like, I don't know, man. He might be here. He might be here. And then, like, I think 4 or 5 o'clock, as I'm leaving work Tuesday, I get the ESPN thing drops. Harbaugh's out. I was like, I called my dad. I called my brother. It was. I don't like, I guess, as I always say, I don't root for people getting fired, but it was time. Like, even in Baltimore, because there are a lot of people in the Baltimore community that will cater to Harbaugh and kind of have for the last 18 years. Even they were saying, like, I like Harbaugh. He's my guy. I love Harbaugh. He's a great coach. But they have noticed, like, the in-game stuff, the fact that you're not having your best players on the field at the same time. The issues at offensive line, you're not making any changes. Everything, you're just doing this coach speak every week. And I think at that point it was like, okay, it's getting stale. It's getting stale. It's time to go. As we got the news and we saw stuff coming down, and I'll say this part and we can delve into, what happened later. But looking at his tenure, 18 years, when he first came on the scene, I think he was what the Ravens needed. He was a different voice from Billick and stuff, and he didn't really get in. It felt like he didn't really get in Ed and Ray's way, at least initially. That wasn't really till after the Super Bowl took effect. He was fine for what we had. Flacco was a pretty much above average quarterback. They already pretty much got out the best out of him that they could. They weren't going to get any better. But it felt like once Lamar Jackson came into the picture, and for the first time the Ravens have had an elite quarterback, it became very apparent, especially as the league started changing, getting more, instead of the Tom Landrys and those CEO coaches, getting more coaches that knew scheme, knew how to develop players to get to that level. Especially, you're not sitting quarterbacks anymore 4 years. You're not sitting quarterbacks 3-4 years anymore on the bench. They're starting right away. So for what we see with Caleb Williams in Chicago, even we saw Colin Kaepernick when Jim Harbaugh took over in San Francisco years ago. Many other players, you've seen what C.J. Stroud's been doing now in Houston. You need that guy to get that player to that next level. And Harbaugh was good at managing the team, but it just felt like with what Lamar needed to get to that next level just wasn't it. And we saw that when he came against the other coaches, against Andy Reid, against Mike Tomlin, against Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, all the rest of these coaches, he just felt inept. He just felt inept. When they could step in and make changes, he just kind of had the confused look on his face. Hands up, hands on his head, doing whatever. So, look, 18 years, not a lot of coaches get that kind of gig. So, I will say the report coming out saying he felt underappreciated here kind of took me for a loop. I was like, if I have a job as a head coach making millions of dollars for 18 years, I'm wearing Raven stuff to the day I die. Y'all, that's it. Like, I would be at every event y'all want me to be at. 18 years as a head coach, after all the ups and downs we went through, I'll take it. But we'll get into that later. What are your guys' opinion about the firing of John Harbaugh?
Well, I mean, my immediate reaction is it was the right move. I mean, I think honestly, if Tyler Luke makes that field goal or not, I think this is the right move. Obviously, they would have waited till the season was done if we didn't make it through the postseason and win a Super Bowl. I think anything outside of a Super Bowl appearance at least would have resulted into a Harbaugh firing. It might not have, but it should have. And like I said, everything kind of happens for a reason. And that kick went wide right, and it kind of put the nail in the coffin on a lot of the pain and suffering that us Ravens fans had to kind of endure throughout the year, throughout the season. This was a very, very, very hard season to witness. Week one, a crushing loss, kind of right away, in Buffalo, and then we proceed to start the year off 1-5. It's just not the way you wanted to start a year, and then just to kind of drag us through all of these emotions and this roller coaster that we've been on. It was kind of like the epitome of the season, the epitome of what we've been through. It was that kick going wide right. It's kind of like Harbaugh has already kind of been hanging on by a thread, and finally it's over. It's on some thank you for what you've done. John Harbaugh, like you said, 18 years, second longest tenure in the NFL. Currently right now, has come to an end. It's obviously been some great moments. The losing the locker room thing, I think it was kind of an inevitable, situation. It's kind of like, when you win, everything, is great. Everyone's in a great mood. There's things that you can look past. But when you're losing games, you stop being able to look past some of the things that you're kind of able to look past. The Band-Aid is kind of ripped off, and you kind of see deeper into the wounds that our organization has had. And unfortunately, but fortunately, we're able to kind of go ahead and right the ship, or at least begin to try to correct some of those systemic issues that we've been having over the years, opposed to just a quick fix. And the quick fixes for us in this organization has usually been replacing the offensive coordinator, replacing the defensive coordinator, putting blame on this player, putting blame on that player. When ultimately, the common denominator, which we've been ignoring for the past, I'm not going to say 18 years. Harbaugh has been a great coach, but the past, I don't know, at least 5 to 7 years, has been John Harbaugh all along. And it's not that he won't go on to be a great coach for another team, which I'm sure, we'll talk about that. But because I don't think there's a doubt up here that he's going to be a great coach for somebody. But for what we need, for what we're striving for, it's not that his goal wasn't to strive for the same thing. It's just that now it's time for some new ideas. It's time for innovation. It's time to kind of shake shit up a little bit, so to speak. And then it's just time for something more youthful, something less stubborn, something with maybe a little less control, somebody a little less stuck in their own ways. It's just time for a new direction. And I think the firing of John Harbaugh was just the best way to go about getting that kicked off. And we haven't had a lot of turnover at the head coaching position. Harbaugh is only the third coach we've ever had in the organization. And I think that this is, a sad way to end the year, but it's a very, very exciting time. I mean, this is probably, this coaching search is almost probably the most exciting thing in the last several drafts that we've had. I feel like this is like make or break. It's either we make a great decision and then we get to enjoy the fruits of that for years to come, or, we don't. And, it could be a grass green on the other side, on the other side situation, which we're hoping that that's not the case. But I think either way, it's the best move for us. It allows us to kind of break all of our old ways and things like that, and kind of move into a different direction. We are retaining, it seems, EDC. So we have the same GM. So it's going to be interesting to see how that meshes with whoever we do hire. But ultimately, new captain of the ship coming in. And yeah, I just think that it's just a great decision for both sides. For Harbaugh, he gets to, move on and see what he got. I'm sure whatever he goes to a new team, it seems like based on his demands and stuff, he's going to be kind of a similar situation, or he's demanding kind of similar control and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's been 18 years. Our fans have been without the championship for this long. He's also been without it too. So I'm sure wherever he's going, it's going to be a fresh start for him. He's probably going to be doing things a little bit differently. It might, turn him into a different type of coach. We'll never know, and that's not our not our concern anymore. But good move on both sides. It was a long time coming. I think this move probably should have happened in maybe 2023, but it happened now, and I'm just excited to see where things go forward. But yeah, I felt bad in the beginning. We've been attached to this guy. 2008. I'm not sure how old we were when that happened, but we kind of he's been obviously a staple here, but you know time for a change, and I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we just pick the right guy to succeed him.
Yeah, writing's been on the wall for a while. I think, if we look back to that season where the switch was made from Flacco to Lamar, like the writing was on the wall then that Harbaugh could be on his way out. So this isn't anything new. This isn't his first time with his job on the line where he may get fired. Our owner is really, he's been fed up with Harbaugh at times, and I think that season when we drafted Lamar, that was the season where we didn't make the playoffs. Harbaugh was gone. Luckily for Harbaugh, Lamar got them to the playoffs with them running that midline veer option game they were doing all season. So the writing's been on the wall for a while. I think there have been chinks in the Harbaugh armor for a while. I think I don't think anybody was blind to it. I think, the problem with this organization is we lean so heavily on relationships. Like they give guys second, third, fourth chances. Just give me a plan on what you're going to do differently, as opposed to let's cut this guy loose, get somebody else better in here. I think that's the flaw with the Ravens organization. We are loyal to a fault, and I think that holds us back some But I mean, with the news, just like y'all, I wasn't surprised. I was relieved. I was happy. If that day went by and I did not see Harbaugh getting fired, I was going to start getting antsy that he was going to be here. I mean, if we're reading from these reports, he was going to be here if Bisciotti didn't pull that trigger the way he did. But I think it's time. It's time for a new era. It's time, just to see some fresh blood in here, some non-Harbaugh blood, some non-Harbaugh coaching tree, relationship, family, blood cousins through marriage, all that. We need to clear it all out. Clear all the the Harbaughs out of the Ravens organization. But no, I just think it's just time. We have to go in a new direction. I think, I think both of y'all said it. We need to go in a direction of creativity, innovation, player friendly, remove the dictatorship. I think there needs to be more collaboration throughout the Ravens coaching staff, front office, players. I think it just needs to be different. I think play like a Raven needs to take on a new definition. And I think it's time to bring somebody in here that can define that, not only for the team, but for the organization as a whole. Because what's been happening was good for 2000, was cool for 2012, but we're in 2026 now. There has to be something new. We got to reinvent ourselves. So to keep it real sweet, man, I was happy about this. Kind of annoyed with all the stuff coming out after, but I'm happy.
Yeah, so we just to go into that part of how all this went down. We saw reports that players were in the locker room or in his office crying that he was leaving. Other reports were saying that Sashi Brown and EDC basically told the team and his personnel that he was being let go. That Harbaugh didn't even really get to tell anybody that he was being fired. And so there was literally one statement that Harbaugh put out, I think a note to the Ravens or whatever. And then the Ravens put out a statement basically contradicting kind of anything that Harbaugh said. Because initially, when I saw the notification from ESPN, it said Ravens and Harbaugh mutually agreed to part ways. And then when I see what the Ravens put out, nah, that's not actually what happened. It sounds like there was some obviously there's some confusion on what they were contentious about. I don't know if we'll actually ever really find out what it was about, but apparently they said there was difficult conversations, to put it mildly, that Bisciotti was having with Harbaugh. And I just personally don't believe that Harbaugh was sticking up for Monken, like, oh, I don't want to get rid of Monken, when this is what Harbaugh has been doing for 18 years. To protect his job, he's always been willing to, oh, yeah, I'll throw so-and-so under the bus. Let him go. Go ahead. I'll keep my job. That's fine. That's literally what he's been doing. And they say it's not just him. Other head coaches do the same thing all the time. The coordinator has to go or you got to go. And a lot of times the coach is going to pick himself. Like, that's just what it is. So the whole Monken thing was weird, especially when we saw the reports from the Sun come out during the bye week about how Monken's office is this and they're not doing that. And Harbaugh had been critical of Monken's office for a couple of weeks, would never really talk about Zach Orr's defense, but constantly was kind of a little critical of Monken. So we knew there was something going on there. So the whole spiel of, Harbaugh going to bat for Monken and all this stuff, I think is just strictly a Pete. And his agent put that out there because he's trying to get a new job. No one wants to hire a head coach that had issues with his coordinators and issues with the players. No one's going to want to pay him $20 million, which is, I think only other coach that gets paid like that is Andy Reid. Andy Reid's the only other coach I think that gets that kind of contract. So hearing all of that and how everything went down, and I saw Steve Smith was asked about, the Ravens situation. And, he said, I played there for 3 years. And even he said, Steve Bisciotti is not afraid to, go around the facility and ask questions to anybody. He'll ask training staff, he'll ask the players, he'll ask other coaches. Hey, he'll pull them to the side. Hey, kind of be real with me. What's is this, is everything's going okay? Everything's going good. He wants to know. And I know a lot of fans have been critical of Steve Bisciotti as of late because we haven't seen him in a few years. They always make fun of him. He's down the Florida Keys in his house, down there. He's not even in Baltimore right now, making fun of him and stuff. But it sounds, somebody said with how fast they were after getting rid of Harbaugh, getting the list together, like I think they've already got like 10 plus interviews already, and going through this weekend. With how fast everything went, everybody was like, I feel like after that Bills loss in the first week, I think like Bisciotti already knew. He's all right. He already known. He wasn't going to fire him during the season, but I think he had already known that he was going to make this move, that it was going to move on from John Harbaugh. Based on the demands that he's asking for, we saw that he wants to pick the new GM, whatever team he's going to. He wants full control of the roster. $20 million and a $10 million, I think, pool of money to hire assistants and things like that. And him coming out saying he was underappreciated in Baltimore. And everybody's looking at, with the roster control stuff and saying, like, he didn't really have all that in Baltimore. I'm like, he probably kind of did. The dynamic in Baltimore was different from most other teams where usually the head coach is reporting to the GM. John reported directly to Steve. He did not report to Eric, which is why I think him and EDC had that kind of like buddy, relationship they had. They lived right next door to each other. They've been there for about the same amount of time. And they didn't really have to step on each other's toes because one wasn't reporting to the other. Most other GMs usually have to, oversee what the head coach is doing. So him reporting back to Steve, and Steve being an owner and a billionaire, he's like, look, I have to be here every day. So Harbaugh didn't have anybody really answer to. Let's be frank. He didn't have anybody to answer to. Steve was either in town or whatever. I guarantee it wasn't all year. So he'd be down in Florida or down wherever he was, chilling. And him and Eric would, get the draft process together and the roster together. And I think it showed. I think over the last few years, once Ray, Ed, and Pollard and all those guys were gone, it felt like there was a certain type of player that the Ravens would draft. They'd stay away from certain players in free agency. And then people are like, well, you can't say that. They got Marcus Peters here. They had Odell Beckham here and stuff. But we all remember what happened with Marcus Peters on the sideline. We saw him blow up. And he was gone at the end of the season. He was gone after that. So we already know Harbaugh has never really cared for players kind of challenging his authority and, how he runs things. And, we also see, I think as well, he allows the coordinators to kind of run everything. The players don't really have a say, it sounds like, a lot in scheme or what's being done on the field. They kind of just have to be told what to do on the field. I think that definitely showed when it came to the play calling on the field, like the confusion. I felt like they constantly talking about we have to execute better, I'm like, we're in week 15, week 16, man. Why are we still talking about executing? Like, why are we still talking about this? Like, so it kind of felt like it for me. I think it's hard. Steve Bisciotti's talking to the players, I think, was a tipping point for him, because it sounds like there was quite a few people in the front office that wanted John to stay, from what is being reported. But it sounds like Steve kind of went with Lamar and them, and like kind of decided, yeah, it's time to go, you know. And then that whole thing about the players crying in the locker room, I don't believe that. These are grown men. This ain't college. They ain't freshmen in college, man. These no. Like I got kids, man. Like, come on, I ain't crying no. Like it is what it is. It's a business, man. We went 8-9. We knew somebody was gonna go.
Yeah.
It was either going to be a player get traded, get released. Everybody's like, some people gonna lose their jobs around here in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are a few teachers' pets on that team, and every team just has them. And we all know Harbaugh. He has favoritism. He shows favor to certain players and not others. So, that report could have been halfway true. Maybe there were a couple players walking in there, the long snapper, maybe Charlie Kohler or something. But I'm not buying Isaiah Likely walked in there. We've seen Isaiah Likely after losses, and the last thing he said, Isaiah Likely. That was the name they threw in that tweet where I was like, that don't necessarily sound too good, because Isaiah Likely, I'd be surprised if Harbaugh was here for another year. Isaiah Likely was probably running and screaming out the door. We might have a chance to re-sign him now based on who we get. But yeah, a lot of mixed stories of this. I think ultimately, I think this comes down to Harbaugh. I think he was legitimately thrown off guard with this. I think he probably assumed he was a lot more flyer with Steve Bisciotti than what he thought. I think he thought that their relationship was probably will prevent something like this. The fact that he got fired in the manner that he got fired, which still unclear. I mean, was it a phone call? Did he go in? Like, we don't know, but it sounds like that he was legitimately thrown off guard. And, obviously the report of him feeling underappreciated. We all know that that's cap. That's probably an emotional response to being let go. But we can name all the press. All you got to do is pull up any press conference of any game that we won for the last several years in his tenure, and you pretty much all of them, he's expressing how much he appreciates his organization. He loves these guys from the top down. He loves the ownership. So that's a bunch of BS. It's obviously all cap. He definitely didn't feel underappreciated. The times where he probably feel underappreciated is when he lost and he was not man enough to take accountability for the losses. So he feels underappreciated because of all the reports that comes down after we lose games, and the losses that comes down to coaching decisions and some of the things that he seemed inept to do or to achieve on a weekly basis. He doesn't really, he can't take the heat when the heat is coming down. And I think that's where probably the not being appreciated. And like I said, I think it was a short-term emotional response to being fired, because even though, he's been there for 18 years, I even if it didn't work out, I think he probably thought it was going to be a little bit more diplomatic of like you said, Miles, where we all assumed that when the time was done, it was going to be a mutual situation. It was going to be like they were going to have a conversation. Even if he did get fired, we would never know about it. We would just see they mutually parted ways, and that would be that. This didn't end like this. When it came out and we found out that he got fired, like any other coach, like Tennessee's coach fired.
Right.
We expect that out of certain organizations. We never expected that out of this organization. Not as tight-lipped as we've been in the past, but you can see there has been a trend over the last 3 to 5 years where Ravens organization has been a little bit un-Ravens-like when it comes to the media, when it comes to things getting leaked. So obviously there was some type of divide there where, there was obviously some frustration building in the building. And yes, things cool down, things simmer down when we win, because the common scenario for us is that no matter how bad our season ends, we still usually end up with more wins than losses. So just because we make the playoffs, that kind of reinvigorates our team. We made the playoffs, we got a chance, we win a playoff game. okay, we're feeling good, and then we have a heartbreaking loss, and then there's a whole off season, and then it's just a cycle that kind of repeats itself over and over. And I think that whole cycle is just run its course. And I think a lot of the mixed reports are personal. I think it's a lot of emotions. People are probably getting different things, and that's a sign of your locker room being lost, because you got players here saying one thing, you got players there saying another. And if you think the sources aren't coming from players, then you're mistaken. This is coming. The report. I believe that there are several reports saying everything, from Harbaugh side to Monken's side to Bashadi's side, because we know Bashadi has spoken to everyone. Like you said, if he's speaking to staff and stuff like that, trainers, he's talking directly to players. And, they're keeping those conversations. He's calling players in his office, and he's saying this stays between us. How do you feel about this? And we know they're giving it up, especially Lamar Jackson. At the end of that game, when Tyler Luke missed the field goal in that Steelers game, in that press conference with Lamar, very telling. Yeah, Lamar was stunned, but he wasn't giving no vote of confidence to John Harbaugh after that. He probably already knew the deal anyway.
You saw Lamar run into the back. Saw Lamar run into the locker room. He was throwing stuff at the wall. He
is your organization.
Yeah.
We're indebted to him. We're not indebted to Harbaugh, unfortunately.
Derrick Henry's face said it all. Derrick Henry.
Harbaugh. if Harbaugh stays and Lamar would have left because of that, that'd be worse than letting Mike McDaniel walk out the building like we did. Mm-hmm. So the mixed reports. I'm not shocked. It was kind of like it was headed downhill. Like, we kind of see how this thing was kind of building up, and it was just a matter of time before things blew up. And that's exactly what happened. And I think the mixed reporting is just because is there's sources telling the truth, and there's sources trying to protect feelings. Mm-hmm. And when you get the two mixing up, this is what you do. And also, you got a coach of the second longest tenure in the league. We haven't seen a change like this since Andy Reid, when he came from Philly to the Chiefs. I mean, we haven't. I mean, from Philly to the Chiefs, we haven't seen this. Change. Yeah. This is more. This is more exciting than, damn near as exciting as the NFL draft. So, I get why I was reporting. Everybody's trying to be first with the reports, and some reporters have more integrity than others. And then you got, all the reports coming out, and then you got Monken coming out doing a full 45-minute interview, and he's disputing all of the rumors. And he's a straight shooter usually, so it's kind of hard to not, believe what he says. But at the end of the day, I think, Miles, you brought it up. These guys still have interviews, so it's like nobody wants to see that there was a rift. So he's not going to jeopardize his situation either. He interviewed with the Cleveland Browns today for the head coaching position. So I'm sure he knows all eyes are on the situation, as well as all the other coaches and candidates out there. And I'm just not shocked by the mixed reporting, but you don't really have to read a report to kind of know what went down. Outside of it running its course, we know there was issues. Like, we see Lamar coming off the field more and more frustrated with the offense, season by season. This season was no different. We've seen the helmet get tossed more times than we can count. And it's not just because, we can't make a play. It's because, the offensive line hasn't been fixed. The scheme is terrible. The receivers aren't getting open because of what's been drawn up. Like, it's a litany of issues. And the Harbaugh thought he was the king. He's not the king. Lamar is king. We have to build around Lamar. We have to build around Lamar so that Lamar can do his job easier, not build around Lamar so that he still has to play hero ball every down. So I think that was just a mistake. And this is the result of it. So it's going to continue to be mixed reporting until we get a new coach in the building. And then, finally, when that happens, we can all move on. But I'm enjoying it right now. I mean, it gives us something. We don't play this week. We don't play Monday night like we were supposed to. So, we just get to kind of sit back and pray for our future and and just keep listening to the reporting, because it's kind of hilarious. But unless I hear something directly from Lamar Jackson, I kind of don't care at this point. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. So,
man, this week has been more entertaining than the whole season.
Yeah.
This has been. But I'm just kind of thinking. I'm sitting back. I'm hearing y'all. And I feel like the media is focused on like this Lamar Monken beef, John Harbaugh, Lamar power struggle. I think honestly the power struggle is between Steve Bisciotti and John Harbaugh. And I think the thing that really pushed me even more leaning into that is what Corey said right here. The interview before the season where Bisciotti was in win now mode. And then John Harbaugh had that little rant about
beginning of the season. All right,
yeah,
whatever.
he had
Just
that
kind of
rant,
brushed it
like,
off. That's what did he
yeah.
say? That's stupid talk, or he said that's
About not winning,
It-
like if it's not a Super Bowl,
Super
it's a
Bowl or
bust.
bust. Yeah,
yeah.
that's silly talk. He said
So-
silly. That's silly talk.
He tried to
Yeah,
cool his, he
so-
tried to cool his own hot seat, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's crazy about it is when you look at what we've been discussing, like Harbaugh was an 18-year tenured coach gets fired and doesn't get the dignity of parting ways, or briefly retiring or looking for new opportunities or just resigning. He gets the treatment of being fired. He gets fired by phone on a drive home.
That's why that was wild. But
You know what I
honestly,
mean?
that fits Bisciotti.
Not in a
though.
meeting.
I can see Bisciotti doing that. He probably called from his Phantom too.
He's
While he, like,
cutthroat,
his driver was
yeah.
driving him. Call Harbaugh real quick.
Yeah, man was probably eating a medium rare steak.
Right.
It's like, bro,
Some
you got to go. But
champagne.
yeah, it just speaks to that may have been the power struggle.
Yeah.
But Bisciotti may have been fed up, but he probably, like, I honestly think, I'm going right back, Lamar's rookie year. He probably wanted to fire Harbaugh then. But when you got this guy at quarterback and y'all see this guy can be a superstar, you don't want to rock that boat too soon.
You give him a shot.
know what I
right?
mean?
Give him a shot.
You want to give him a shot. You want to have some stability for this young MVP quarterback.
Mhm.
And then you get stuck in a place where, things are going a little sour and you're trying to figure out when to make that move. Is now the time to make that move? And I think Bisciotti over the years has probably been getting on Harbaugh like, hey, after the Greg Roman debacle, get somebody in here that's going to elevate this offense and elevate our MVP quarterback. Brings in Todd Monken. First year's cool. But he's probably like, what the hell? Why did we run the ball in the AFC Championship?
Mhm.
And then they bring in Derrick Henry. What the hell? Why are we not giving Derrick Henry the ball? And then this year was probably just the icing on the cake. Like, what the hell is going on with this team? And he probably just knew at this point, like, he's been getting on Harbaugh probably in these behind the scenes talks. He's been talking to these players.
Mhm.
He probably had a bigger issue with Harbaugh than any issue that Lamar had with Monken or Harbaugh. I think the real issue was between Bisciotti and Harbaugh. And when you look at Harbaugh's demands, like, I'm just starting to like put the piece of the puzzle. When you look at those demands, him wanting that lets me know his true personality.
Yeah.
Even though he's branded himself as this player's coach, this rah-rah guy who's got it better than us, this motivator, when he's really a dictator. He's a control freak. He wants things his way. It's his way or the highway. And I think you're kind of seeing, like, that may have been the power struggle. Harbaugh wanted things for this team one way. Bisciotti wants to win, and Bisciotti thinks it needs to be happen this way. And that is what led to this. And I honestly probably feel that conversation between Bisciotti and Harbaugh wasn't friendly at all.
No.
It wasn't a friend and a colleague, a boss, just saying, hey, it's time for us to just, get somebody new in here, new culture. It's like, no, I gave you all these chances. You didn't effed up. I'm tired of it. Get the hell out of here. That's why I feel the energy probably was in that conversation.
Well, I think
that's
too,
the power struggle, and the players probably knew it.
I think too, for the last few years, right? It's feel like it's always been on Lamar can't win the big games, and Lamar struggled in these playoff games, and I think that was fine for Harbaugh because he could take the blame. It wasn't until this season when everybody started noticing how bad his O-line play is, and Falele's making viral clips every week of how bad this play is, and then we see Henry go missing in the Patriots game. Harbaugh shows up with the play calling sheet in the Green Bay Packers game. So it was like, it wasn't until I think the spyglass had shifted to Harbaugh. It had been on Lamar for the last 3 years about these playoff losses and everything else. What can Lamar do to get better? He's the MVP and all that other stuff. But once Lamar got hurt and he had been out and dealing with all these injuries, everything kind of focused on the team, not just Lamar. I feel like if Lamar had been healthy and 100%, Harbaugh's probably still here. Like the Ravens win 10, 11 games. They do enough just to get to make the playoffs, and they're running back for 2 more years. But I think once you started seeing Lamar not play, Madubuike has potentially a career-ending injury, and things like the defense blowing 14 points. You started seeing these Harbaugh breaking these records of the most blown fourth quarter leads of all time in NFL history by one coach and one team. For the first time in Ravens history, having a losing home record. Ravens have never had a losing home record in the bank, never. And I think also seeing the fans in, I think it was not the Packers game, that the Rams game, and I think the Pats game too. And notice how loud the Pats fans were at M&T Bank and how little Ravens fans were even at that game. And it's still a playoff type game. I think the fans, the PSL owners, and everybody else made it very clear. I don't know we're fans. We don't know what it needs to be done, but something needs to be done. And it made it very clear we're not gonna put our money towards this organization unless something happens. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, again, like I think Corey asked, what do we expect from this press conference on Tuesday? I don't know how candid Steve is gonna get. It depends, honestly, what these reporters ask him. I know these reports are out there, so it'll be real interesting to see how much he delves into that. I think he still has respect for Harbaugh, so he's not going to say anything right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if something gets out, like if Harbaugh does get a job somewhere, and then something comes out later. Then Steve's kind of like through another media member kind of says, "This is what really went down. This is how it went down."
Yeah.
But again, when you spend 18 years. Kind of, I think it all. I mean, again, we can look back at the end of 2012 when the Ravens won the Super Bowl and Ray retires. Ed, I think, goes off to the Jets and Suggs leaves and the Cardinals, and Bolden gets traded or whatever. And we heard about the mutiny that was going on. Like Ed Reed had said it. He said when Harbaugh came in around that 2010, 2011 season, after he had been there for a couple of years, started to kind of take over the practices when Ray, Ed, and Suggs would run the practice. He said that we ran it. And then Harbaugh tried to step in like, no, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. Ed Reed said this weeks ago, even before all this stuff went down. He said that. He was like, we were kind of like looking back like this is the reason why we're, a Hall of Fame defense because of what we established here. When we heard the mutiny go down and then all these guys leave, that told me everything at this point. Harbaugh's now going to reshape this team in his image and how he wants it to look. And I'll say, like Suggs said a couple weeks ago, he said there's a bunch of school teachers on this team. That's what he sees. There's a bunch of school teachers out there, man. But they're good players and everything, but they're not going to step up to the coach. They're not going to, question calls or things like that or be critical of anything. They just go out there and just do what's told. Even if the play is bad, if it's a bad play, I don't know if Zach Orr understands zone coverages and where guys are supposed to be because it felt like guys were in the same place and they didn't know this one had to be over here, this one had to be over here, and guys are just whatever. But it also showed the players. It just felt like the players were just disinterested throughout the whole season. Mm-hmm. But Bateman especially. Bateman just felt like he just like I don't care anymore. I'm done. Like it just felt like everybody was just interested, man. Even that they're literally in the middle of a playoff hunt. Instead of a chance to go to the playoffs, it just felt like they were disinterested. Didn't care anymore. And when the guy that's been there 18 years, you can get in your own head and thinking I'm straight. I'm straight. I haven't won a Super Bowl in over a decade. I'm good. I think in his mind he had felt, as long as I made the playoffs, I'm good. I'm straight. Well, I made the playoffs, I'm good. I think he thought maybe I can blame it on injuries again. Lamar was hurt, half the year, and I'm just blaming on that, whatever. But I think, look, you see how what the Bears are doing. You see what the Lions are doing. You see the Chiefs are going to be back next year. We expect that. The Rashee Rice situation, that man need help. He need help. But like the Chargers are getting better. Eagles are the Eagles. Like teams are only going to. There are teams getting better. The Chargers are getting better. The Jacksonville Jaguars made the playoffs. Like it's not going to get easier. Mm-hmm. So I think Spicciotti's like, if you really do want to win a title here, you can continue to win a title, especially for Lamar. The time is now. Time is now. So yeah. I don't know how if it was weird showing. I don't know if you guys saw that video. Harbaugh invited some of the coaches and maybe some players to his house
Oh yeah.
During that was it when the Browns beat the Steelers and they were showing it on, I think, on TV.
Watching that little TV, all them guys.
How much money this man make?
That was crazy.
Yeah, I was like, yo, y'all could get a bigger TV for this man.
A big ass wall, and it was just like,
you making how much? That was crazy to me. I'm like, you got the whole team over there, and y'all watching the smallest TV. In your
you need to have that. I expect that whole wall to be a TV. Like,
right. I could requested $20 million because they need a bigger TV.
And this is the problem now. I hope he ain't home watching film on that little TV. He need to. That's why we see. That's why we know what's going on, and he don't clearly.
Right.
Corey said, Coach also said he thinks it was Bateman who leaked the hit piece on Munkin.
Well, he probably would be the more frustrated.
Right.
I wouldn't doubt it.
300 yards for the season.
He wasn't getting. But Tyler Wallace was out there, right? Why is Tyler Wallace out here, not Taz Walker? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's hard to even know. It's hard to even know if players actually regress or if we just ask. Like, it's hard to even tell.
It's hard to know
because it's like every year everybody just takes their turn. You know,
just being bad. Everybody was bad. Everybody was bad this year. Everybody was bad this year. But like you guys said, like what was it that one where not Tyus got hurt? They were like they did a video at the Ravens facility. There were these papers flying around everywhere. I forgot what was going on with the Ravens during that time.
I don't think I've seen that.
But that's when it started with these leaks. That's when all this kind of stuff started. It was like a few years ago. I think during COVID. It was all these little like you said, we hadn't seen that in years. This doesn't happen in Baltimore. That's when it kind of started.
Yeah.
So, all right, so on to the Ravens have, like I said, had at least a dozen interviews. And look, as teams get knocked out of the playoffs, they'll be interviewing more. And I'm pretty sure during that week before the Super Bowl, they'll be doing a lot of more interviews too. They've already had one with Clint Kubiak. I think they've had some with Robert Saleh already. I haven't heard anything about Mike McDaniel maybe as OC, but I think they brought in Brian Flores for head coach. A lot of people. I think Jesse Minter. He's coaching this. Is he? Did he
Chargers?
Okay.
Coaches.
I don't know if we brought him in yet.
I know he's been mentioned, but I would assume after that. I think we're waiting until either they get eliminated or that week before the Super Bowl to interview. So there's a few guys that have ties to the facility. Obviously, I think Anthony Weaver, who's a former Raven and head coach. I mean, and assistant head coach. Here. Minter also was, I think, here as well as a linebacking coach for a little bit. Do you guys think they need a complete fresh start? Do you want to bring back anybody from the Harbaugh days? Anybody? Or so they just like they need to bring out a true outside hire? They don't have any relationship with the Harbaughs at all, pretty much. It's time to just, hey, let's start over.
Yeah. You gotta I think it's time to just and I think Anthony Weaver, it might have made sense at some point, but with everything that we've gone through, and we kind of had to live through this Harbaugh coaching tree for a while. It did work out with Mike McDonald. So I can't lie, it did work out with him. But yeah, I think it's just time for a fresh start. That's the whole point. I mean, if you're going to fire the head coach, there's no point of bringing any resemblance of him back here. Obviously, Jesse Minter, fantastic coach, and has his own thing going on. But we don't want to get into a situation where now we're sharing everything with the Chargers again, like we've already been doing. Like Jim Harbaugh is still over there. We don't want him controlling our team and his own team. Just by sharing what he got over there with what we got, we can end up with the whole Chargers assistant staff if we're not careful. So
bring Greg Roman back.
Bring Greg Roman. Like it's just a slippery slope. And I think it's just best for all parties involved. Like I said, I'm not too versed on Jesse Minter. I know he's a good coach because I watched the Chargers games and I can see that their defense has they're doing their thing, but they do have some talent on that side of the ball. Derwin James and all those guys, they make plays, they force turnovers. But it's always hard to tell because how much of that is the talent you have, how much is that as a coaching. Right. The scheme you can see when the scheme is there because it makes guys' jobs easier. So that's really what I look for in the DC is that you got a bunch of guys on the field. You don't necessarily know who they are, but they're making plays and they're making it look easy. That means you have a good, defensive coordinator. You putting guys in the right position. But yeah, I think we start fresh from the top down. Head coach, OC, DC. I think we need somebody completely new in the building. Bring somebody in that maybe has a tree that's already proven as well. So when they get hired, they can bring the necessary assistance that they have, to kind of get everybody right. I'm cool with anything that's youthful and innovative. So I think we've seen that with Clint Kubiak. We've seen that with some of the other guys. I'm not going to just list all. Like I said, we're interviewing. It seems like everyone. I don't think I'm okay with Kevin Stefanski. I'm not. I'm not saying he was dealt the best hand. He was a coach of the Cleveland Browns, but I just think you're just tainting. I don't want Baltimore to be tainted with that.
No Browns mess over.
Yeah, I don't want any Brown. I don't want any Browns baggage coming over here. And I'm just not a super fan of Kevin Stefanski. He seems like a good guy, but I'm not necessarily fond of his ties that he has. Who else we got? Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores is a good leader of men. I'm kind of torn between wanting an offensive head coach versus a defensive head coach. I think obviously we bring in an offensive head coach, and in tandem with a good offensive coordinator, that connection could be huge for Lamar. But I mean, if we have an OC that Lamar clicks with, I don't want to miss the opportunity to have a great defensive coach and then lock that portion of our team down because, obviously, we're Ravens. We want to start fresh, but we want to keep our cornerstone. We want to play good defense. And we know no matter how good our offense is, our defense is what's going to tell the story. I mean, as you can see in the first few games of the season, where we're putting up 30, 40 points every week and still losing games. So I wouldn't mind a Brian Flores. I just don't know who to associate with him. Cliff Kingsbury, I'm not super fond of what I've seen in Arizona from him.
No Cliff.
I'm not a fan of Cliff. When I saw we were interviewing him, it does make me nervous because there's nothing that I've seen from Kyler Murray that makes me want to emulate or duplicate or replicate over here with Lamar Jackson. So I think head coach wise, like I said, it's kind of a toss up. Like I'm kind of just waiting to see. Defensively, I've been hearing Jim Schwartz floated around.
Oh, let Jim Schwartz back here.
I would not mind that.
He's a Baltimore guy too.
He does have ties, but those aren't the type of ties we're talking about. He's familiar. And we kind of, we know what we're getting out of that. I've heard floatings of Spags for a head coach. Don't want that. Great defenses, but I don't. He's just if we're hiring a coach to have for the next several years, he's just not going to be the answer for us. Like I said, I want youthful. Mike McDaniel, OC wise, that kind of I'm intrigued by that because once again with these hirings, what I immediately think of is Lamar. So I go back to who we're hiring and then I look at Lamar and I'm like, okay. It seems like with Mike McDaniel, I can see him and Lamar in a room and they're just scheming up whatever. And Lamar will have a lot of input in that. And McDaniel will kind of maximize what he has. McDaniel was never had a Lamar Jackson. He's had to deal with Tua. So just only imagine. And their offense have had spurts of being a hot offense. It's just that they just didn't have the quarterback to get some of his ideas executed. And I think, that might be a good thing for him.
He may have to leave his capri pants in Miami, though. It gets cold.
Right.
Yeah. It gets cold up here, man.
Man.
It does. It does. And yeah, I can see that. So whoever we get, man, I just think it's important to keep Lamar to focus. I know, Lamar, his career is not going to last forever. And we do have to, we still want to hire on a grand scheme of, he's still going to be your head coach, whether Lamar's here or he's not. So you still have to think about that. But we're still in win now mode. We can't get it confused. This is not a rebuild. This is not a empty, clean house. This is on the coaching staff, yes, but we still got our guys. We still got to get to work on re-signing and renegotiating contracts and extending Lamar's contract. But long as it's somebody, like I said, youthful, doesn't have a Harbaugh tie, fresh ideas. We've kind of seen the proof is in the pudding from what we've seen throughout the last couple of years. I think I'll be okay with. It's just that, I know for a fact what I'm not okay with, but I think we're all going to be kind of learning in real time what's going to happen. It's going to be a crapshoot either way. It's just that I think that Clint Kubiak being involved, I think is going to be a good thing. Just like I said, age-wise, what he's doing in Seattle currently. I think he's probably one of my favorites, and maybe some type of combination with McDaniel, because I doubt that he's going to get a head coaching position elsewhere right now. So I think him and McDaniel will be a good combination in that front. And defensive coordinator, it's kind of it's kind
everybody.
Listen,
it's a wild card right there.
But listen. It's not the craziest idea, only because what Ed Reed is going to bring, if he does come,
he wants to coach
to Baltimore. If we were to do something like that, the worst thing that could happen is that he brings all his common sense and it just doesn't work out for some reason.
Yeah.
But and then we change that next season. The only thing is, if you have a offensive minded head coach and your defensive coordinator is chips, it's like we don't have nothing else to lean on and we got to make a decision quick. But it's always a possibility. So yeah, that's just my, for right now. Like I said, we're interviewing a ton of candidates. I don't think I'm cool off of the Webb guy, only because I don't know much about it. He's a quarterback coach, I think. I don't know much about him. There's a lot of guys that I'm not as familiar with. Vance Joseph, he's had his chances before. He's had his chances. Defensively, I'm not mad at, but
Vance looks corny. He looks corny.
But yeah, I'm cool on that. And let's get some 30-somethings in here, man. Let's get some 30-somethings in here. Yeah, let's flip it over. And like you said, Travis, you said something very key. And when you said the word, I'm just like, that's literally all I'm looking for is collaboration. We need guys in there that are going to collaborate. They're going to have an ear open to other staff and also the players, because like I said, I think a lot of our systemic issues revolve around not being a good listener and not just using your eyes when you're watching film to see and make common sense decisions. And I think a young coaching staff could kind of diagnose a lot of that stuff earlier on, and a lot of that would have been nipped in the bud. So, but it's a fine line because you also need a leader of men. So if I had any downside, it would be, I'm not sure how these guys will be leader of men, but that's something we can kind of figure out and something that they can kind of develop over time, especially being so young and being you can be similar age to some of the guys on the team. That's always a weird dynamic, but I'm willing to risk that in the name of going a completely different direction, because that's just obviously what we need to do. So.
Man, I'm with y'all on all of this. I'll be brief because we ain't too far off. I want youth, I want energy, I want collaboration, and I want a culture where we're gonna go out there and smack people in the mouth, and not be scared to not try to prevent ourselves from losing the game, but just going out there and winning the game.
Go win it, yeah. Be aggressive.
And I have a couple like folds of different scenarios. Like I have one scenario in my head where it's like Flores, Mike McDaniel, and I got a wild card in Jonathan Gannon, who just got fired as the Cardinals head coach. Because when he was a DC in Philly, he was fired.
Yeah, he was. That defense was really good.
That's true.
And they were strong in areas where we're weak at right now, especially in pass defense. But I like Robert. Was it Saleh? Robert Saleh. I go to offensive coordinator, I keep coming back to Mike McDaniel. I could just picture because Mike McDaniel, if this coaching style thing is true with Monken, Mike McDaniel is probably be a perfect fit with Lamar. They'd probably be in that mug talking about roadblocks and coverages at the same time. So Fortnite,
Fact.
Mike McDaniel just has that youthful spirit, like where he's passionate about everything. Like even though he's a cornball, I think about that clip of him trying to draw Max Crosby off sides. He's like, hey Max, I got you, Max. But that type of energy we don't have. Somebody that's passionate. Like, he a cornball, but he's passionate about the game. And I think that's the type of person Lamar needs. Somebody creative, somebody passionate, somebody willing to collaborate with them. Because, I mean, Tua and Mike McDaniel act like they were stepbrothers or something, you know, just having a ball together when they were working together. You know, fortunately, you know, too many concussions to Tua, and he started just going off the bandwagon, and they kind of like mutually started moving apart. But I think he would be a great fit for Lamar. I want to see that happen. But I think from a head coach perspective, leader of men is first and foremost. So it's like I'm down to like Brian Flores, Robert Saleh, and Clint Kubiak. I think Clint Kubiak can get the job done. So like those are my top three. Like Kevin Stefanski, okay, 2-time coach of the year, but 2-time, 3-time, what the hell are you doing, coach of the year?
How he handled that QB room this year showed me it. I don't know.
It's a character thing. And I have like a whole nother theory about that where I personally think Kevin Stefanski, he wasn't trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders. He was trying to sabotage himself and get fired.
Yeah.
That's what I
honestly think. He didn't want to be there
year.
anymore either. Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty obvious. But Kevin Stefanski, no, I'm not really keen on him. Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, look, I don't want to watch Zay Flowers catch bubbles 150 times a year, so that's not really what I want.
That's what he did at Debo in the Commanders this year. That's all he did. Everybody's like, he just doing bubbles Debo all year. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see Zay zigzagging at the line of scrimmage for the next 5 years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of very particular, man. I need the passion, I need the fire, I need the Ravens to feel like in 2026, I need the passion of 2000 and the 2000 and 2010 era or 2012 era. Like I need that passion, but with some 2026 creativity.
Yeah, it's time for the Ravens to stop being vanilla, to stop being predictable, and come out there and stop. I think I got tired of the, I don't know. Let's say professionalism is the word, but how nice Harbaugh was with everybody, like as far as like the league is concerned, and how he was like, oh, let's ease up, let's let this defense chill out and everything. Nah, like that Bill Belichick energy when he was playing the Pats, he was like, if we score 7, we score 70. Like it is what it is. Like everybody gets paid. Everybody gets paid millions of dollars to do this job, man. Like I think it's time for the Ravens, and I think Lamar has, while he's not overly vocal, I think with his play and intensity shows that Lamar's out here trying to prove that he's the best and prove, I think, the rest of the team and that they're not to be messed with. I think the Ravens have lost no one's afraid of them anymore. No one fears the Ravens anymore. They live off that old Ravens, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed mindset, and it's like it hasn't been like that the last few years. Ray don't fear anybody anymore. You literally got teams coming in here and beating us by 35 points. Like that's got to change. Mm-hmm. That's got to change. So, well, that's it from us. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I think this goes even past the Super Bowl. I think once teams start getting eliminated, they'll do more interviews. I think once we start seeing guys get those second interviews, we'll kind of have a better idea of, who could possibly be the head coach for this team. But let's say I was telling my son's barber, I was like, last time the Ravens hired a head coach, I was graduating from college. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, interesting. It's time in Baltimore. Exciting time in Baltimore. Let's see.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we honestly needed this after that.
We did. We needed some new life because we felt everybody felt everybody felt down on Monday, and it's like, nah, it's time. It's time.
Yeah, we don't even need to discuss it. We've seen it enough every time we open our phones. Like it's good to talk about something fresh, something new, something exciting, something we can actually look forward to in the off season, because it's going to be an interesting one. And I'm also interested. EDC is still there, but I'm also interested to see how this impacts the draft, because we know how we typically draft. So that should also look different in April.
Really see how much impact Harbaugh really had on picking some of these players. Yeah. And maybe EDC wanted to pick some players, but Harbaugh's like, it doesn't really fit our locker room. It doesn't fit what I'm trying to do here. Okay.
Getting bullied. Yep. I'm sure he was getting bullied.
Yep.
Probably.
All right, that's it from us. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace.